Okay, so I just want to speak briefly about the first Clinton-Trump debate. I was going to make this initially after the debate, obviously being a few days now, but I got caught up with other things. This is going to be really, really a scratch on the surface, a summary. Um, I don't intend to talk about the debate in great detail, but really just give a summary of some of my thoughts on it. You don't have to agree with me. I will say just from the outset, I am not overly enthusiastic for either candidate. I mean, I'm not enthusiastic for Trump at all. If I absolutely had to endorse one, it would probably be Clinton, but that would not be a very sort of open endorsement. I'm not. There's areas I also have concerns about her. Traditionally, I have been a bit more aligned to the Democratic side of things. For those who may question that because I'm a centrist, I would explain one thing briefly. Um, I think the whole paradigm of left and right is somewhat different between the United States and Europe. That is to say that what is considered left wing by American standards would be seen as more centrist by European standards. So, although Hillary Clinton and especially Barack Obama are more to the left of things, by European standards, by British standards, are very much centrist. Many Americans think Obama is a socialist and so on. Whether he is or not is a matter of debate. I don't think he is actually. Um, but I think he's a liberal more than a socialist, and there is a difference. But anyway, that's just a quick disclaimer. So that's the only reason I'm slightly more on the Democrat side of things. However, there are areas I'm more sympathetic to Republicans on. Certainly with politically correct issues like affirmative action and so on. In today's context, I'd be more on the Republican side of things. On the issue of guns, I'm staunchly on the Democrat side, and I don't mind admitting that. Okay, so about the debate, um, I think Hillary won this. I think, and I think that's a consensus. I think only the most hardcore Trump supporters would honestly say that he won this debate. That doesn't mean she comfortably won. I think Trump had his moments, but overall, Clinton looked a lot more professional, and she just looked like someone who had a lot more experience in debates, which is it's a fact. She does. Um, she's ran in 2008 and in this year, and of course the Senate race. So she's a lot more experience of political campaigning in that sense. I always thought this would be a challenge for Trump because he was outside his comfort zone in the sense that he was outside this Republican field where he could just throw around insults. The ball game is different in this, if I can use that analogy. It's a presidential debate. It doesn't get any more important than that in terms of political debates. Um, so I was expecting Trump to be a bit more moderate than usual, and he was. He was a bit more toned down than usual. However, I still think Clinton looked a lot more professional now. I fully understand the concerns that the American people have about Hillary Clinton. My own concern about her is that probably not for the same reason my concern about her is the whole feminist thing. I'm obviously a big critic of third wave feminism. I believe certainly early in her campaign, not so much Clinton herself, but some of the people around her and some of those who endorsed her, especially Madeleine Albright. That might seem like a trivial issue. To me, that was quite telling that Madeleine Albright made that disgraceful comment about there being a place in hell for women who, there's been a lot of allegations of sexism against men who have disagreed with Clinton, but that wasn't really followed up in the way it should have been. Now, Clinton should have distanced herself from that. So I'll just say on the cuff that is my concern about Clinton. On the other hand, I respect Clinton for, in my view, standing up to the gun lobby. I'm not going to go into great detail with that, but people who have subscribed to me for a long time know my position on that. I am an advocate of common sense gun legislation. I've had some healthy civil debates with people and some not so civil debates with people on that issue. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but just let me say that I think the idea that putting more guns into the equation, I think it's madness. And I don't think anyone on the Republican side has a grip on that. I think the Democrats are a lot more in touch with what the problem is. Um, So Clinton does get my respect for that, and I do believe it takes courage, because frankly there are nutters out there who aren't just interested in having disagreements. And I think some of the things that Trump has said on the campaign has been a total disgrace. As a presidential candidate, I do believe he's one of the most reckless ever. One of the things that people say is, and perhaps I'm getting a bit off track here, I'll get back to the debate in a second, but they say Trump tells it like it is. I'm not so sure about that. I think he's been quite inconsistent, actually. I think he'll tell any focus group what they want to hear. I think Clinton's biggest problem is a trust issue. It isn't just about the emails, it's about a wide range of things, and there is a real trust deficit there. Although I would say it's a bit stupid attacking her for her husband's indiscrepancies. That seems a bit unfair. I mean, you go attack every candidate for what their husband or wife has done. It seems a bit, you know, that seems a bit off target. Anyway, keeping to the debate, um, it started off pretty civil. They shook hands. They were civil to one another. Trump at one point said, "I want you to be happy," and it sounded almost desperate, like he was almost paranoid about being accused of being disrespectful. On the other hand, I have to say that there's a large aspect of the American media that kind of have this bizarre idea that if a man's debating a woman, he has to go easy on her. That's absurd. If someone's running for president, they should be treated exactly on an equilibrium. So Clinton shouldn't get easy treatment because she's a woman. I don't think she did, but I'm just saying as a pretext, she shouldn't be given equal treatment. And I heard like in the last, for example, in the Republican cycle and within the Democrat cycle, remember in the 2008 vice presidential debate, people were saying Joe Biden had to go easy on Sarah Palin because she was a woman. That's nonsense. I take the view if you're running for office, there should be an equilibrium. Uh, so there was probably this idea that Trump should go easy on Clinton because she's a woman. Of course, being Donald Trump, he's not a normal man, and he does have this track record of allegations of sexism. I really don't think on this particular occasion there was any profound sexism to be seen. Um, Nothing that could really be called that at all. He was rude. Um, I think he kept interrupting, which looked very. It was just rude, whatever way you look at it. Clinton didn't do that, not to the same extent. I think the moderator, Lester Holt, could have been a little bit more hands on with that. He should have interjected a little bit more. But I don't want to be too hard because it is a very difficult job he's got. And, it's very difficult to get a good balance here because you don't want a moderator that's interrupting too much either. It's a bit like a boxing referee. No one wants a boxing referee who's kind of getting involved too much. Um, but Clinton kept on target and she had very solid, smooth answers. Whether you disagree with her or agree with her, whether you think she's a complete liar or not, no one can dispute that she's a very skilled political operator. Some would say that's a bad thing, but in the end of the day, perception is very important. Now, what Trump looked like was just he fitted into the stereotype of just being bombastic and crude, and he kept interrupting, and there was no sexism, and his language itself wasn't particularly extreme. Certainly not as obnoxious as some of it usually is, but he was rude. He kept interrupting it, and that didn't come across well. It looked petulant. One area I do think would give Trump more credit on, and I think where he probably got the round, so to speak, was on the area of crime. Clinton kind of tapped into the whole Black Lives Matter thing and like basically talking about the mistrust between police and the black community. And although that's an important issue, I do feel, and this is a side I don't like about the Democrats, I do feel they've been kind of tapping into the social justice warrior aspect. And that has lost them some credibility in terms of being a party of law and order. In the end of the day, people being terrorized about crime don't want to hear, you know, leading politicians say, oh, well, we're going to bend to the demands of those who are causing the trouble. And in the end of the day, Black Lives Matter, I believe as an organization, it is very dubious, and I believe that they have a lot to answer for in terms of their inconsistency. I mean, it's one thing talking about police brutality, and we know there is an issue with that. Um, I wouldn't criticize the Democrats for talking about those issues, But where Trump probably got some traction was he mentioned the fact that Democrat run cities such as Detroit and Chicago have been war zones essentially in terms of crime. Now, that's something that's hard to argue against. Republican mayors like Rudy Giuliani on their watch, crime went down. Quite difficult to argue against that. And I think that could be one area where Trump gets some traction. So Clinton's going to have to be careful about that, that Trump doesn't kind of portray her as someone who isn't going to be interested in law and order. She needs to make it clear that she is also going to take the side of the police. Incidentally, I don't think there's anything wrong with a politician getting a balance and saying there is a problem with police brutality. I don't agree with those who say that a politician should just kind of pander to the police and just say, oh, we're what behind you 100% and we're going to keep quiet when these things happen. I don't agree with that. But by the same token, presidential candidate also needs to show that they will be on the side of law and order and they will not kind of make excuses for people who are mindlessly rioting. There's no excuses for that. So it's about getting a balance. On reflection, if I had to give them a mark out of 10 for this particular debate, I'd give Clinton probably 7.8. There was a few answers she probably could have elaborated slightly more on, although I still think she had a much better grasp of foreign policy. Trump contradicted himself a few times. He kept talking about punishing China, then said we need the Chinese to rein in North Korea. So that's inconsistent. He also had a bit of an own goal when he lectured Clinton about not having stamina. And then she pointed out what she'd done as Secretary of State in terms of visiting countries. And it was also quite astonishing when he said he had a better temperament. I actually take the view there's nothing wrong with people losing the temper and politicians being human and showing emotions. But Trump cannot claim he has a good temperament. He clearly doesn't. This is a man who gets rattled very easily by reporters, and I don't think he has a good temperament. I think Clinton, in many ways, has tougher skin. Um, Although I would say those who are trying to allege that there was any sexism, will have to be fair here, and I don't think Trump was guilty of any sexism on this particular occasion. I don't think that's fair. So, on balance, I'd give Clinton 7.8, Trump 5.9. Yes, I'm more on the Clinton side. I think she had a stronger debate. You may disagree with me, but I think the consensus is that Clinton won that, and I think most people would recognise that she won that. Of course, that doesn't mean a great deal. Nigel Farage was asked about this. He is the leader of UKIP. He's a Trump supporter. He says he isn't, but to all essential purposes, he is. He said that years from now people will forget the detail of that. That's quite possible. I don't know though. This will be recorded for posterity. You know, we can still see the Reagan Mondale debates online. I think that just in terms of having command of the debate, Clinton had the upper ground. Um, Trump let himself go by his rudeness, just interrupting. I think he would have been, and he looked almost desperate when he says, "I want you to be happy." It kind of looked almost patronising. I don't think he needed to do that. Um, I don't think Clinton was going to play the victimhood card and say, "Oh, I don't think she's like that." So, yeah, he didn't need to do that. I think that the only area where Trump did get some traction was in that area. But to say she had no stamina and he had better temperament was nonsense. Having said that, Romney was seen to have won the first of the three debates with Obama. Obama won that election. So, this is only the first debate. There's two more. One more interesting point, and I've already spoken a bit longer than I intended, but the moderator clearly said no heckling from the audience, no interrupting. Um, there was no hecklers, but there was a few points where there was interjections like cheers. And I think on the first occasion it was actually from the Trump side. I thought it would be from the Clinton side because universities where it was located tend to be more left wing and more pro Democrat. There was apparently a sign outside saying that there was trigger warnings in place, which was interesting. But anyway, on balance, I think Clinton got that. That doesn't mean I'm a die-hard Clinton supporter. I'm really not. But I do think she is a more seasoned politician, and she showed it. I'm surprised Trump didn't go more after her on the emails thing and on the trust issue. I'm surprised he didn't capitalise on that a bit more because it is an area where she has major issues. Um, as for her husband's indiscrepancies, the fact he didn't bring that up isn't really to his credit because it shouldn't be brought up in the first place. What Bill Clinton does is Bill Clinton's problem. And the fact he was going to invite Jennifer Flowers, I think that's just below the belt. It's just like, inviting a woman who your husband's had an affair with to sit in the audience. It's just tacky, and I think it's got zero relevance to a presidential debate. Um, is Clinton going to invite everyone that Trump's offended? It's stupid. So yeah, on balance, I think Clinton won, but we'll see what happens next time around. It certainly made interesting viewing. I do believe actually it's one of the more memorable debates of recent years. Certainly a lot more interesting than Ford Carter. Um, so let me know your thoughts. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Please keep it respectful. And that's it. Thanks for watching.